Euromaxx highlights, coming up on the show. Sounds of Portugal. Oke Estrada from Lisbon presents a new take on Fado. All the World's a Stage. A Belgian fashion designer's costumes for a Wagner opera. Cheers, featuring Germany's youngest variety of wine. Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Karen Helmstedt.
Greetings from Berlin. And we're starting off with a tasty tribute to one of the great British institutions, fish and chips. 2010 marks the 150th anniversary of that famous combination as the first fish and chip shop opened its doors back in 1860. Well, today there are some 11,500 of those shops around the UK that sell many millions of portions every year. And we went to see why the dish has kept its place firmly in the nation's heart.
Many things are associated with Britain, but few are as popular as fish and chips. And this is London's oldest surviving fish and chip shop, the Rock and Soul Place, founded in 1871, which makes it almost as old as the dish itself.
They're amazing, really, aren't they?
You've had a hard week, so you treat yourself to fish and chips.
When you look at chips in McDonald's, for example, the American sort of French fries, where they're very thin and whatever, I mean, they're not chips, so I wouldn't eat those, no.
Reminds me of going to the seaside or being a little girl. It's quite comforting.
Fish and chips is definitely British, 100%.
Fish and chips is traditionally something you buy at a take-out eatery. A portion here costs about €10. The way they're made hasn't changed much over the years.
The way we do it and prepare all our things is very much like from the traditional old ways. And it's very simple. Fish has to be the freshest, potatoes have to be the best, and use the best grade. When you haven't got too many ingredients, you've got to make sure each one is the best.
The fish is coated in batter and deep fried at 185 degrees Celsius for just 4 or 5 minutes. The fried chipped potatoes are sprinkled with vinegar and salt. As for takeout, they're traditionally wrapped in paper.
They used to recycle the newspaper, but they found out that the ink on the newspapers wasn't good, and if it transferred to the food. So about 20 years ago, they banned it. We still have the paper that they use for newspapers, but there's no print on it.
Fish and chips was long considered working-class food. It was often sold at stalls or cold from a cart. The first fish and chip shop opened in London in 1860. Back then, as today, many people bought their fish at Billingsgate Market, Britain's biggest wholesale fish market, with around 25,000 tons of fish changing hands each year. Mark Patru has written a history of fish and chips to explain its success.
Because it was affordable food for the masses, it was something that wasn't rationed during the wars. It was something that was readily available. As an island, we grew our own potatoes, we caught our own fish, and we had coal in the side of the hills. So to produce fish and chips as a country was a very easy thing for us to do.
Different fish used to be served in different regions. Nowadays, 3 species dominate the market.
Okay, so this is the most popular fish being sold in UK fish and chip shops. This is cod, and then the second most popular is haddock. It's got this black line down it here, and the third most popular is plaice.
200 million portions of fish and chips are sold each year in Britain. A quarter of the potatoes grown in the country end up as chips. There is even a national federation of fish fryers.
It's an industry that employs 60,000 people just selling fish and chips. And then you look at the fishermen and the farmers and everything else that goes into our industry. It's a very important part of our economy.
Fish and chips is no longer the food of poor people. And it is not only served as takeout. J. Shiki is an upmarket fish and seafood restaurant in Covent Garden, where celebrities also come to eat. And they also gladly eat good old fish and chips. In fact, it's one of the most popular meals there.
Fish and chips is a big nostalgia trip for a lot of people. It takes them back to their childhood. And people generally love fish and chips, and especially if they're done very, very well.
Whether posh or plain, eaten on the run or in a swank restaurant, fish and chips remain a pillar of British cuisine.
Well, designer Piero Lissoni from Milan, Italy, creates what are widely considered to be objects of desire: elegant yachts, furniture, kitchen utensils, and bathroom fixtures. But as he says, in the Milan tradition, you are first an architect and then a designer or engineer, which is why lately he has wandered back to his professional roots as an architect and has added villas, hotels, and company buildings to his repertoire.
A Milan office block built in 2010. A company headquarters in northern Italy, the reception lobby of a furniture company built in 2008, and a luxury home in Caremate near Como, completed in 2006. All of them are the work of Piero Lissoni. In his Milan studio, the 53-year-old is looking through a new book featuring his architectural works. It also has a picture of the offices of Living Divani near Milan that was completed in 2007, after 5 years of construction.
The element that optically structures the building is the facade, with a double skin of glass and U-glass plates. They break the light and save almost 40% of the building's energy.
Quasi il 40% dei consumi.
Lissoni has been creative director of the company since 1988, and most of the furniture in the showroom was designed by him. When the new offices were being planned, the company's owner was sure that she wanted her chief designer for the job.
I like Lissoni's absolute elegance and his clean lines. Everything he does has a luxurious feel, and it's discreet rather than ostentatious.
In his Milan studio, Lissoni has 70 designers, architects, and graphic artists working for him across 3 different stories. His golden retriever dogs are also a permanent fixture. Immediately after completing his degree in architecture, Lissoni set up his first studio in 1986 and became an extremely successful product designer. His first building, this villa by Lake Como, was constructed between 2002 and 2006. Lissoni is now involved in architectural projects on 3 different continents. But he doesn't regard himself as a star architect.
For me personally, architecture is a means of contemplation and a way to add calm accents, not exaggerate. I do the same thing in design. When I can, I'm as muted as possible.
The Lounger Frog from 1996. And the Sofa Extra Soft from 2008. Lissoni made a name for himself with these pieces. There's a simple reason why he now designs buildings. More and more clients wanted him to create their homes.
You have to be able to design small objects, but also much larger ones. Just like the little ones, but on a larger scale. The only important thing is the human scale. A person wearing a watch or sitting on a chair or entering a room.
This year, Lissoni completely remodeled an old building in Milan for a renowned Italian fashion company. The architect was guest of honor at the dedication at the end of September. He also helped design the interior rooms.
For example, we redesigned the showcase windows. We made the inner courtyard an accessible garden. We opened all the windows. They'd been bricked up before. I wanted to connect the colors of these clothes with the light from the street.
The furniture factory Matteo Grassi near Milan. Lissoni mounts office spaces made of transparent material onto a concrete wall, not to create a sensation, but to give the people inside light and a view.
Our job is like that of an artisan, and I want it to become that again. An artisan is about being as honest as possible. I don't create art. I don't want to appear in future books about architecture. Who wants that?
But Piero Lissoni has already been immortalized in one book. Not included in the book is this planned viewing tower in Maranello, a city in northern Italy. After it's completed in 2013, visitors will be able to look out over the factory grounds of a well-known sports car manufacturer.
Well, the traditional folk music of Portugal is called Fado. The word means fate or destiny in Portuguese, and typically the lyrics and music are very melancholic. But now there is a band from Lisbon that begs to differ. Oke Estrada give Fado a danceable and more cheery touch, and for good measure, they've added a bit of hip-hop, ska, and some other music styles to the mixture as well.
Oke Estrada, playing to a packed house at the Tivoli Theatre in Lisbon. This song, called Se Esta Rua Fosse Minha, features on the group's first album, Tasca Beat. In Portuguese, Tasca refers to traditional watering holes where the working class goes to eat, chat, and listen to music.
We come from a country that's been forgotten a little in Europe, but we hope to change that with our music. We want to play cheery fado music that people can dance to. In Portugal, there are many immigrants and therefore many languages. Our music is about Portugal as we know it today. It's the music of a port town like Lisbon, in which lots of people come and go. We sing about this new Lisbon.
Oke Estrada was founded in the Portuguese capital 8 years ago. The group started out playing in restaurants and bars, so it comes as little surprise that they chose the name Oke Estrada, which essentially means, what a street. But these days, they don't play in trendy little bars too often anymore. The musicians usually pack much larger venues.
When we're abroad, or even in Portugal itself, people say something very nice, that our music reminds them of Portugal, but not the usual image of Portugal. Portugal is no longer just the country of classical fado. For many years, we've been a part of modern Europe.
The musicians rehearse before every performance. One of the most frequently played songs in their repertoire is Que Foi, or What's Happening, from their new album.
Our music is a modern fado, which speaks of the different cultures and of the suburbs. We're giving a voice to the millions of people who live there.
People also say that our music is like the soundtrack of a changing Portugal.
The texts and some of the melodies are taken from traditional Fado songs. The musicians from Oke Estrada say the typically melancholy sound of Fado also finds expression in their music.
It's music that makes you want to cry and dance at the same time. That's why we call it dancing Fado. It's the melancholy and at the same time the energy to keep on going, to spring over borders, to get to know the world.
Oke Estrada and its lead singer Marta Miranda are a regular feature on Portuguese radio and television. Now they hope to win over the rest of Europe.
Fabulous stuff. Well, Belgian star designer Tim van Steenbergen is winning over audiences with his new look for Wagner in Berlin. Van Steenbergen created the opulent costumes for a new production of Wagner's Das Rheingold here in the German capital. It's part of a cooperation between the Scala in Milan and Berlin's Staatsoper unter den Linden, which aims to stage all 4 parts of Wagner's Ring cycle.
Rich colors and textures gleam as a story of power and love unfolds around the Rhine River. The intricate costumes are themselves works of art, created by the Belgian fashion designer Tim van Steenbergen. And they were seen for the first time at the Berlin premiere of the Staatsoper's new production of Das Rheingold.
That's something really nice. I would like to wear it myself sometimes, maybe, you know, for some gala party.
I'm a Belgian, and the costume maker was a Belgian, so I'm very proud of that. And I liked it very much, of course.
We've been working on this production for more than a year now, and they follow it, and it's like until the last moment, everybody is on every detail and changing, and everybody is like behind you and supporting you. So, yeah, for me, it's a wonderful thing to be here.
Tim van Steenbergen came up with his designs in Antwerp. They were sewn in Berlin at the State Opera. He drew inspiration from Austrian artists Gustav Klimt and Egon Schiele. The designer created a different costume for each of the 27 singers in the production.
The first meeting with the singers for me is very important because it's very important that it stays natural, that you believe what you see, that you don't disguise people.
The central theme was water because of the Rhine's central role in the opera.
We do the drapings and then we say how I want the movement, that you really have the feeling of water around the body.
For me, the water and how water flows on a body is very important. As you start from the Rhine, that this is a very important story in the costume design, but also in the set design. So I wanted to go on with that too.
Most of the singers here also performed in the Milan premiere of Das Rheingold, the first part of Richard Wagner's epic Ring cycle.
I'm very happy to have Tim's costumes because it's extremely beautiful. No, really. So it helps a lot to feel really like Rheinmädchen.
Tim van Steenbergen was there for all the rehearsals in Berlin. The director, Guy Cassier, is also from Belgium.
What's happening in fashion influences the theater or the opera. And I think it's so important that artists can meet and that we can find symbiose, the connection between those arts.
Today it's become a trend for opera houses and theaters to work with famous designers. Last season, French fashion icon Christian Lacroix created the costumes for the Staatsoper's production of Georg Friedrich Händel's Agrippina. And German designer Michael Michalski has outfitted the dancers in a new show entitled Ima that is running at Berlin's Friedrichstadtpalast. While working on the costumes for Das Rheingold, Tim van Steenbergen also designed 4 pret-à-porter collections.
When you work on costumes, you create an image and you think about light. When you design fashion, you also have to sell. So you really think about what's the product that's selling, and that's the base you start from. Here is it, how is it going to look on stage, and how can you make people believe what they see?
The young fashion star will also design the costumes for the 3 other operas in Wagner's Ring of the Nibelung. The second part will premiere in Berlin in April next year.
And finally, we're off to Rheinhessen, the largest of Germany's 13 quality wine regions, to see about the newest type of grape in cultivation. The Regent is a hybrid of both European and American vine types. It was created back in 1967 and after years of experimental plantings was finally released for cultivation in Germany in 1996. Well, within a relatively short time, it's found favor with German vintners and now ranks 12th in the top 20 most planted varieties.
A modern grape variety in a vineyard more than 12 centuries old. Regent grapes have been growing here since 1997. Matthias Bungert was one of the first winemakers in Germany to plant the variety. He says it has advantages over older strains.
The Regent grape has a loose bunch and a nice dark color. It's bred to be highly fungus resistant, so it needs little additional protection. It's now fully ripe. This is a middle ripe variety and should be harvested now and put in the barrels.
The Regent is most widespread in the Rheinhessen wine-growing region. The Rhine Valley's sandy soil offers optimal growing conditions.
If you try the young wine now, some already in the barrels, then this vintage is shaping up to be superb.
The grapes are processed immediately. The winery has been in the family for 9 generations. Matthias Bungert and his wife, Martina, have managed it for the past 8 years. In 2000, the winery won an award for its very first Regent harvest. Since then, Bungert's wines have been recognized at home and abroad. The new variety has also convinced his long-term customers.
I've seen a lot of conversions with this wine. Customers who always bought only our white wines and then through the Regent discovered that a German red wine can match the quality of wine from Southern Europe. Regent fits very well in our selection and our program.
Bungert holds regular wine tastings. He says most guests are surprised at the Regent's fullness and intensity, which remind many of Mediterranean wines. It's not what people normally expect from a German red.
What's special about this wine is its fruitiness and the dreamy flavor. I'm not a specialist, just a simple consumer. But for me, this wine is one of the top red wines that I can get anywhere in the whole region.
The premium wines age in barrique barrels in the winery's cellar for up to 2 years. The best Regent wines often end up in top international restaurants. They too have recognized its quality. Matthias Bungert developed a taste for the wine quite early.
I got to know the Regent during my apprenticeship in 1983. Back then, the Regent only had a number. It wasn't given the name until later. It already fascinated me back then because of its density, its body, and its intense color. It's unique as a red wine, unique throughout the world.
For Matthias Bungert and his wife, a change for the new just made good old-fashioned sense.
And that's all for our highlights. Do visit our website if you'd like to find out more about the program. And in the meantime, until we meet again, all the best and thanks for watching. Cheers.